Adira Vance held The Little Prince in her hands, the spine soft with age and repeated readings. Dust motes danced in the anemic light filtering through a broken window, illuminating the pervasive grime on the library's once polished floor. A faint smell of damp paper, soot, and stale human presence hung in the still air. She read aloud, her voice a gentle murmur against the vast, silent shelves. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. A semicircle of young faces watched her, their eyes wide but wary. Their bellies were not full enough. Their attention drifted to the crumbling walls, to the distant, unsettling sounds of the ruined city. A toddler coughed, a dry, rasping sound. Adira's clean, patched denim jacket and neatly braided hair were conscious efforts, small anchors in a world unmoored. Cora, 12 years old and small for her age, shifted on the floor. Her sharp, calculating blue eyes missed nothing. She pulled a half-eaten dry biscuit from her pocket, exchanged it with a smaller boy for a better sleeping spot near the central fire pit. The boy nodded, his own meager ration clutched tight. Jet, 10, quiet, ran nimble fingers over the gears of a broken clock. He meticulously dismantled it, a tiny screw disappearing into his worn pack rather than listening to the story. The silence of the library broke. Finn, an 8-year-old scout, stumbled through the main entrance, pale and shaking. His thin frame trembled. He did not speak. His eyes, wide with terror, found Adira's. "Finn?" Adira's voice was soft even. He swallowed, his throat dry. "Symbols. On the wall, near the old pharmacy." He pointed vaguely towards the west, his hand shaking. "Crude, like teeth. And blood." Adira's jaw tightened. Rook's gang. She had reinforced the barricades, increased vigilance. She believed in peaceful coexistence. She believed they could teach it. "We will strengthen the perimeter," Adira stated, her voice calm despite the tremor in her own hands. "We will stick together. We avoid confrontation." Jet, ignoring the fear that rippled through the other children, continued to work. He'd found a water-damaged engineering textbook in a collapsed section of the stacks. He'd been studying it for days, fascinated by how things once worked. He peeled back a page, revealing a crudely drawn map tucked inside. His fingers traced a line, then stopped on a marked location. Hydroponics dome. He looked up, his quiet eyes alight with a rare spark. "It's in the scar." Cora, always listening, leaned forward. "The hydroponics dome?" Her voice was sharp, pragmatic. "That's sustainable food. We go in. Aggressive, rapid acquisition. Their territory or not, we need it." Adira looked from the tattered book in her hand, a symbol of the fragile peace she desperately clung to the crudely drawn map, a terrifying promise of a future that demanded a different kind of strength. Cora's sharp, pragmatic voice echoed in her ears, a chilling counterpoint to the hopeful words of the Little Prince. The choice was clear, yet the path forward was shrouded in a darkness Adira barely dared to imagine. The old library's hushed air, once a comfort, now felt like a cage. Adira gathered the children, their faces pale in the dim light. "Hydroponics dome," she said, her voice low. "Food. We go in, we go out. Quiet. Together." She watched them, small shoulders hunched under scavenged packs. Discipline, teamwork, old words for a new world. The sunken mall swallowed them whole. Water lapped at the edges of collapsed escalators, reflecting the grime-streaked skylights far above. The air hung thick with damp and decay. Every splash, every rustle of their clothes echoed. Jet, barely 10, moved like a shadow. His thin fingers brushed against a rusted grate, finding the loose catch. He pulled a section of shelving aside, revealing a narrow passage Adira had missed. He guided them through the choked aisles, his eyes scanning for unseen paths, for the way through the new world's labyrinth. "Too much weight," Cora's voice, flat and unyielding, cut through the silence. She pointed to a bag of scavenged books. "Slows us." Adira hesitated. The books were heavy but a piece of the old world. Cora simply took the bag, emptied it, leaving the paperbacks to float away on a stagnant puddle. Later, in a narrow, shadowed corridor, Cora knelt. She tied a thin wire, almost invisible, between two overturned display stands. "Deterrent," she murmured, her blue eyes devoid of emotion. Adira's stomach twisted. She saw the trap. Not lethal, but effective. A warning. A threat. A smell, metallic and sweet, hit them first. Then the scene. A small, overturned camp, a child's crude drawing scattered, a half-eaten tin of peaches, and in the center, a small, bloodied teddy bear. Rook. The name was a whisper in Adira's mind, a cold dread. Her breath hitched. "Slower," she insisted, pulling the children back. "We circle wide. Avoid them." She led them through a maze of abandoned clothing racks, deeper into the mall's shadowed heart. The prolonged exposure proved their undoing. A glint of movement, a rustle from above. Then, the ambush. 3 figures, lean and quick, dropped from a broken skylight, landing with predatory grace. Rook scouts. Adira shoved the younger children behind her, her arms instinctively out. "Stop!" she pleaded, her voice raspy. "We mean no harm. We're just trying to." They didn't listen. One scout lunged, a blur of tattered cloth and sharp edges. Adira met him, her body a shield, taking a blow to her shoulder, the impact jarring her teeth. A metallic tang filled her mouth. Another scout, quicker, grabbed a smaller child, pulling them from the group. Adira lunged, fueled by a desperate primal roar. Cora moved. No sound, no hesitation. A piece of scavenged metal, heavy and jagged, flew from her hand. It didn't strike the scout. It struck the precarious pile of debris directly above him. A sickening groan of twisting metal, a cascade of broken concrete, a deafening crash. The scout yelped, startled, releasing the child. More shouts echoed from deeper in the mall. The noise had drawn others. Adira reeled, the taste of her own blood thick on her tongue. Her water bottle, slung across her chest, had ruptured, a cold stream soaking her side. She pushed through the dust and debris, dragging the smaller children with her. They escaped. Yes. But at what cost? She glanced back. Cora stood amidst the settling dust, her calculating blue eyes scanning their retreat, cold and precise. A new fear, colder than any rook could inspire, settled in Adira's chest. It wasn't just the enemy outside that terrified her. It was the chilling efficiency of the one within. Cora's brutality had saved them. Adira's ideals had led them deeper into the very trouble she sought to avoid. They were out of water, out of options. Adira was out of answers. The sunken mall stretched before them, a maze of shadows, and she knew, with a sickening certainty, the worst was yet to come. Adira stood amidst the water-stained books of the old library, the dust motes dancing in the slivers of light. "The hydroponics dome," she announced, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "That's our next move. We need to secure it, fortify it. It's our best chance at long-term survival." She gestured towards a group of the younger children. "You 3, with me. We'll start by clearing the main entrance." A boy, no older than 7, met her gaze, then his eyes flickered past her, towards Cora. Cora stood near a collapsed shelf, her small frame still, her blue eyes sharp. Her hand lifted, fingers splayed, then curled in a specific sequence. The boy nodded, a silent understanding passing between them. He turned, not towards Adira, but towards a section of the library Adira hadn't even considered. Another child, a girl with tangled hair, saw Cora's signal and pointed to a third. They moved, not as Adira's commands dictated, but with an uncanny, almost militaristic efficiency, forming into 2-person scouting parties. Jet, always quiet, was already dismantling a broken cart, his nimble fingers repurposing its wheels. Adira watched them assign specific foraging routes with a glance, establish a silent, rotating guard system with a series of quick hand gestures. Her instructions hung in the air, unheard, unheeded. Cora had already established a new internal structure, based purely on utility and aptitude, not age or sentiment. The children were not just adapting to Cora's leadership, they were actively forging their own, unburdened by Adira's norms. Adira was becoming an increasingly peripheral figure. Despite the cold knot of unease in her stomach, Adira pushed forward. "We fortify the dome," she insisted at the hydroponics dome, her voice resolute, ignoring the silent currents that now flowed around Cora. Barricades at the intact sections, warning systems for any approach. The children, for a moment, seemed to follow her lead. They hauled twisted metal, stacked broken panels, diligently working to reinforce the dome's remaining intact sections. Adira supervised, her old-world understanding of siege warfare guiding her. She felt a flicker of the old hope, a sense of purpose returning. Rook's gang, however, had watched from the High Park overlook. They did not engage in a frontal assault. A sudden hiss filled the air, acrid and biting. Adira spun, her gaze darting to the dome's vulnerable, partially collapsed ventilation system. Thick, black smoke, smelling of burning rubber and something metallic, billowed in. It clawed at Adira's throat, each breath a searing agony. Her carefully constructed plan crumbled. The barricades were useless. The children choked, coughing, stumbling blindly through the haze. Several screamed as they fell, injured in the ensuing chaos. Pinned beneath a section of crumbling wall, rubble digging into her ribs, Adira watched, helpless. Rook's triumphant shouts echoed through the choking haze, but it wasn't his victory that truly shattered her. It was the sight of Cora, her face a mask of chilling resolve, issuing silent commands. The children moved, not as the wary, hopeful souls Adira had tried to nurture, but as a single, dispassionate unit. They enacted a brutal calculus of survival Adira couldn't comprehend, let alone stomach. She saw the glint of scavenged metal, the cold, calculating precision in their eyes, and understood. Her world, her ideals, her very purpose, had been consumed by the smoke and the fire. She was no longer their protector, no longer their guide. She was simply a witness, trapped and choking, to the terrifying birth of something entirely new, something unburdened by the very humanity she had fought so desperately to preserve. As Rook's gang closed in, she knew, with a horrifying clarity, that she was utterly, irrevocably alone in this new world. The air in the dome tasted of blood and chemicals. Scavenged pipes shrieked against the remaining glass, each strike a hammer blow against Adira's teeth. Rook's gang, a wave of feral hunger, slammed against their makeshift barricades. Adira gripped her own scavenged pipe, knuckles white, a futile line of defense against the inevitable. Her heart hammered, a frantic bird trapped in her ribs. Then Cora moved. Small, precise. Her sharp blue eyes cut through the chaos, scanning, calculating. A flick of her wrist, almost imperceptible. Jet, a shadow in the dim light, responded. A tripwire, barely visible, snapped taut. A weighted bucket, filled with jagged shards of metal, swung down from a high girder, catching Rook's lead enforcer in the head. The boy crumpled, a sickening thud swallowed by the din. No shout from Jet, no warning, just the quiet efficiency of a predator. Simultaneously, other children, a blur of motion, converged on a ruptured nutrient tank. They didn't speak, didn't hesitate. With chilling precision, they leveraged a heavy metal bar, twisting the corroded valve. Viscous, bright green solution erupted, flooding a section of the floor. Rook's gang, pressing forward, stumbled into the slick, toxic tide. Their panicked shouts turned to gurgles as they slipped, flailing, their crude weapons useless. The children moved as one organism, each limb knowing its purpose, each action devoid of sentiment. They were not individuals. They were a single, coordinated, ruthless entity. Adira watched, paralyzed. Her mind, so accustomed to the old rules, struggled to process. Protection, morality, civilization. These were words from a dead world. They were hindrances, not strengths. The children understood something she had only begun to glimpse. Survival was not a negotiation. It was an absolute. The choice, stark and undeniable, presented itself. Cling to a dying ideal, ensure their destruction, or accept this new, brutal pragmatism. Rook, his face a mask of primal rage, saw the opening. He lunged, a makeshift bludgeon raised, aiming for the final barrier. Adira, still clutching her pipe, saw him coming. Her breath hitched. The decision, when it came, was not a thought. It was a cold, hard certainty. She dropped her pipe. It clattered on the wet floor. Her hands rose, empty, palms open in a gesture of surrender. "Wait," she called, her voice thin, but it cut through the noise. Rook hesitated. His eyes, fixed on her, gleamed with triumph, a split-second distraction. That was all Cora needed. Another silent signal. From a hidden perch above, a net, weighted with scavenged metal, dropped. It fell fast, encompassing Rook and his remaining loyalists, entangling them in its rough mesh. They thrashed, snarling, but the net held. The dome fell silent, save for the gasps of the trapped and the sloshing of the nutrient solution. Adira's hands still hung in the air, a ghost of her deception. The act, small and morally compromising, had secured their victory. It had ensured their survival. Cora stepped forward. Her gaze, sharp and unwavering, swept over the incapacitated gang members. No mercy, no hesitation. She pointed, a single finger directing the others. Some of Rook's gang, those less entangled, were forced to retreat, scrambling out through the shattered panels. Others, still caught, were disarmed, their crude weapons tossed aside, their scavenged resources stripped. The hydroponics dome was secured. Adira no longer dictated their morality. This brutal efficiency was their new definition of order. The dome hummed with a new purpose. The scars of battle remained, patched with scavenged plastic and metal, but the chaos had given way to an almost unsettling precision. Broken nutrient tanks, though partially emptied, were now systematically managed, their contents redirected to carefully tended rows of crops. Wild overgrowth had been cleared, replaced by neat cultivation areas. Jet, perched on a makeshift workbench, tinkered with repurposed systems, his nimble fingers a blur. Others moved among the plants, silent, focused. Cora, undeniably, was the leader. Her sharp blue eyes missed nothing. Her commands, often just a glance or a gesture, met with immediate, unquestioning obedience. Her hair, shorter and less meticulously kept, some strands escaping, framed a face etched with a deeper, more complex understanding. She watched Cora, efficiently directing tasks, her expression a mix of awe, trepidation, and a quiet acceptance. Adira held not a book, but a small, hand-bound journal filled with observations and drawings of the children's new society. She was no longer their primary protector or moral guide, but an observer, a chronicler, a bridge between a world that was and a world that is, a silent witness to humanity's ruthless, yet undeniably effective, evolution.